Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, or welcome back. Thank you for being here today. What this video is about is something that's probably on quite a few people's minds, pretty popular. It's January. You know what January is? It's dry January. It's dry January. How many of you have already imbibed? Oh, whoops. Oh no, sorry. I wasn't really doing it, but I encourage people to do that, as we will discuss. I think it's great for people to question their relationship with alcohol. I know I did. That's something that I worked on for a while, and I'm going to talk about it in this video and also do a little review of one of the books that helped me along the way and helped me develop a lot of tools. And yeah, let's get into it. So what is this book? The book that helped me in my quest to reduce alcohol intake, to develop better habits, is Quit Like a Woman by Holly Whitaker. I love this book. I love it. I feel like I had a lot of really great insights, not just into habit building, but there's the whole history that she goes through of Alcoholics Anonymous and alcoholism and all that stuff was just all really interesting reading, quite frankly. So without getting too, I don't know, too personal with it, I was struggling with alcohol for a while. It was in the I would say the problematic area, if you will. And this is one of the things she talks about in her book, and I fully agree with, is that it's not that some people can't drink, it's that, according to her, nobody should, and anyone can become addicted. I agree with that. I agree with that fully. Like, anybody can become addicted and anybody can have a problem with it. You just need the right, wrong things to happen in your life for that to happen. For me, I actually didn't start drinking until later in my life. My late 20s. You guys are probably guessing how old I am. I don't know if I've mentioned it. I do have a big birthday coming this year. That's too many. Yeah. It's coming, and I have some plans for that. But anyway, so I didn't start drinking until later in my life because I grew up in a very, very strict religious household, and that carried on into my 20s. I was part of a very strict religious group that kind of controlled everything, and so I personally did not partake until I left in my late 20s. And then it's like I tried it, but like it wasn't a big deal, And that's another thing that she points out in the book. I'm just kind of comparing her stories and stuff that she talks about, is that the thing about her drinking is that in the beginning it's not noticeable at all. It's the thing that's noticeable is that it's not noticeable at all. It's stuff you're doing with friends. It's you're hanging out with friends, and it's just this it's very much a sliding scale of what you're doing as your tolerance increases, as you hang out with your friends more, or if you just start having it on your own. A glass of wine after work is amazing. Still love that. Not lately, not anymore. Not really, no. But it's still, it's a good time. Anyway, so yeah, it's like it just wasn't noticeable, wasn't a thing until it was. 2017. Actually, it started a little bit before that. A lot of stuff happened. Basically, 2015, it's a whole thing. I quit my job. I went to teach in China. I came back because I was in this very tumultuous relationship with this person, and they kept jerking me around, and it was a whole thing. So I came back 2015, I had to start over, I had to find it was all this stuff. And the thing is, like, when you travel, the thing to know when you travel, I'm just a little American here, but you know who knows how to drink? Brits, British people, Euros. They can, yeah, they really put me to shame when I was over there. So I'm just trying to keep up with them and going out and whatever. But yeah, so when I came back, my tolerance was a bit higher. And yeah, so I was very much in that drinking culture for a little bit when I was in China. I came back, and it just kind of continued because I was still in this relationship. As I said, tumultuous, and eventually it did end in 2017, and I took it, we'll say badly. We'll say very badly. And that's when my drinking just kind of became, it went from not really a problem to maybe you should cut back, etc. Yeah, but that's just kind of what I went to. I've been through, like, my life's just been through, it's been through a lot, okay? Been through a lot. So, and right around then, like, I realized this problem, so it's just gradually, it took a while. It took a while to step back, because the first step in all this is recognizing that there's a little bit of an issue, or a big issue, or whatever your issue is, and just saying, hey, what do I need to do? And it was a bunch of trial and error. It was a lot of, not doing it for a while, and then binging, and not doing it, and binging. It was pretty much like that. And I was doing a lot better 2019, but of course 2020 happened. And all the stuff that I'm building and working on just went out the window. Bye. Bye habits. Bye good ones. Let's go back to our unhealthy coping mechanisms for life. As we all did. As many of us did during that time. It's not surprising. It's just something that kind of happened with everything else that happened. But anyway, the thing that really helped me, this is one of them. But one of the big things that really helped me, as I mentioned in my other video, I started going to therapy in April 2022, and I started working on a lot of issues, a lot of trauma, a lot of things that I just kind of pushed away, and it's still, I'm kind of tearing up. It's like, okay, so go to therapy, started working on myself, I got diagnosed finally with ADHD, as I previously mentioned, and started just really working on my mental health. 2022 was, for me, the year of mental health. And by the way, I was still drinking at that time, and my therapist kind of knew, but I wasn't elaborate about what was happening there. I didn't elaborate. But at that time, it wasn't as bad as it had previously been in 2017, because I had been working on it. And that's what you do sometimes. Sometimes you just work on something. And that's another thing she talks about in this book, is that you have to practice being sober. You have to practice not drinking. It's like I said in another video, it's when people make resolutions, say, I'm gonna walk 5 miles every day. Well, it's like, well, you don't walk at all. You don't walk 1 mile. How are you gonna walk 5 miles? If every week you and your friends meet up and have a beer or have a wine down, what are you going to replace that with? stuff like that. And, you know, as I talked about, therapy is one of the big things that helped me. Even though I wasn't necessarily talking about drinking, talking about the other things that I was going through, it was really helpful. Getting diagnosed with ADHD, and this is interesting, people with ADHD tend to struggle with alcohol because we have a dopamine deficiency, and nothing on this planet has a bigger dopamine hit than alcohol, you know, and your brain just kind of gets wired for it. So once I started taking some medication for that, it was amazing. It was amazing how drinking just, it didn't go away, but it just became easier to not, you know, it just became easier to not do that because I just started getting the help that I needed. I started getting what my brain needed. My brain needed something and it wasn't getting it on its own and wasn't making its own. So once I started getting help, that's really what made quitting drinking, or cutting back basically, because I still do from time to time, but it's just not a thought in my head really. I can have some, for example, I went to this fancy Italian place with my boyfriend, and I had, you know, a glass or two of wine, not a big deal, and then you just go about your day, you know, you don't need more, that's perfectly fine. We did tacos this weekend. I thought, hey, a light beer, that might be good. I'm not doing drinking pretty much right now because I'm on a health thing. I'm trying to slim down. I'm trying to get fitter. That's something else that I'm working on. So I'm not really drinking in general. And another thing that really helped me was listening to the book. So I read the book initially, and then I just got it on my Audible and just started listening to it. And I think because I've been cutting back, and then I decided I would do Sober October. And I've never done that. And I've never done it and it be like not white knuckling. If some of you are like white knuckling right now through your dry January, that's okay. That might just be where you are. But I had Sober October, and I pretty much listened to this book all the time. I just listen to it. And it's really just, I like her narration because the author reads it, and just hearing her voice and hearing her talk about how terrible it is, what it does to your body. One of the things I enjoy is conspiracy theories. I love me a good conspiracy theory. This isn't really a conspiracy theory, it's just kind of what happened. But it's like what's behind all this stuff is really interesting. I'm actually just going to read it really quick for you. On page 63, she says, Prohibition was one of the few exceptions during the period of eugenics where the people weren't blamed as much as the alcohol was. The temperance movement didn't assert that there were some normal people who should drink and some sick fucks who couldn't. It asserts that all drinking was demonic and therefore all drinking had to go. When Prohibition was repealed a decade after it became law, plenty of groups or dries still believed alcohol was the root of all evil. One such group on a mission to bring back Prohibition was the Research Council on Problems of Alcohol, or RCPA, which hoped to prove the inherent toxicity of alcohol. In US of AA, Joe Miller describes how at its inception, the RCPA couldn't find funding and ended up taking money from the alcohol industry to further its anti-alcohol research in order to avoid conflicts of interest. The RCPA turned its efforts from researching the dangers of the drug alcohol to something the alcohol industry was keen to investigate, the disease of alcoholism. So this is pretty much how our idea in alcoholism came to be. So basically, the funding for the research on alcoholism was paid for by Big Alcohol. And of course they want to blame a disease because that way they can keep serving alcohol. It's like we need to blame, there's a disease, and people have it, they always have it, and we need to not harm precious alcohol or ruin it for other people. And I just thought that was really interesting when I read it. And there's a lot of stuff in there in this book like that, where you're just like, oh my god, my mind is blown about some of this information. Yeah, but so if you like that type of stuff, if you like just learning about the history of certain things, this is a really good book. Another thing that she talks about, which was really, really helpful to me in my journey, was she talks about creating a morning routine. So I have a morning routine where I drink lemon water, I do some sort of movement for at least 30 minutes, I get some exercise, I read something positive, and I go about my day after that. But that's pretty much my morning routine, and it's just very important to create habits like that. It's very important to create habits like that if you are trying to not drink or not do anything that you're trying to change. Because a lot of people said when they're doing dry January, I'm just gonna not drink. As I said earlier, like, what if you are used to getting with your girls and having wine, or your guys, or whoever you're with, doing whatever, having a drink, and you're used to that, well, how are you going to replace it? What are you going to do that creates the pleasure construct of doing that? What are you and your friends going to do otherwise? Stuff like that. So it's also, you have to replace things with other things. So if you guys usually meet for wine, maybe you meet and go for a walk. I don't know. What do people do? Go for a walk, a hike, take a class together. It just depends on where you are in your journey of not drinking. If you want to abstain, you plan on abstaining forever, I mean, your relationships are going to change. That's just something that's going to happen. And she talks about that too. It's like how your relationships are going to change, especially when people are used to you being a certain way and you're not that way anymore. They just do. And the thing is, some relationships will end and maybe you'll create other ones, better ones. But yeah, she talks about all of that in this book, and yeah, I highly recommend it. 5 stars. It helped me in my journey. This is the first year, I actually don't even have not drinking as a goal. It's just something I don't really do, or I don't really think about. Like, I can, but I just don't, you know? Another important takeaway from the book that I really, really liked is that it's not about never drinking again. That's not the goal. That's the goal of like AA and things like that. The goal of this book, and in general, I think in recovery, and I really agree with this, is not I'll never drink again. It's that you create a life that you don't have to escape from. And that is what I am trying to do and striving to do, to create a life that I am proud of, where I'm happy, create my career, relationships, just create a life I don't have to escape from, where I can be happy and content with what it is. We should always strive for more, but overall, just create a life you don't have to escape from. You don't need alcohol, you don't need drugs, you don't need this, you don't need that. Create the life that you want, which is what I'm trying to do. I hope you all do that too. If you are, just what I'm trying to do, I hope you all do too. I would say, if you get a chance, if you're struggling with dry January, or even if you've already imbibed, I had a beer, oh my god. If, and you're really interested in not drinking, I do highly recommend just giving this book a quick look. especially if you're a woman or a person of color or part of the LGBTQIA community. She talks about how recovery frameworks are created for men, how they don't work for people outside of being cisgender white males. That is what she really focuses on, and just the problems with the recovery community. It's just overall it's interesting. Even if you're not interested in not drinking, it's just a very interesting book. 5 stars. Pick it up. That is all I have to say for today. So if you have read this book, have some comments. If you're struggling, if you have tips, please leave a comment below. If you like this video, please say you do. Please hit that like button or whatever you guys do. Yeah, do it. Anyway, I will see you guys in the next one, and have a great day. Bye.